promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar, 7 p.m. in Abuja. Good evening and welcome to Newslink, coming to you live on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM and online at wadr.org. First, our top stories. Mixed reactions across Nigeria over deployment of U.S. troops amid worsening insecurity.
It's not going to end terrorism.
This will actually be a welcome development considering the fact that we've been battling insurgency for over a decade.
What are they going to get to return? Are they not going to cede some of our territories for U.S. operation in Africa?
Côte d'Ivoire rejects Niger's accusation of destabilization attempt involving President Ouattara. Gambian government pushes for partnership with United Kingdom on investment.
Gone are the days when we rely on support and being dependent on aid. And now we are calling for partnerships, we are calling for investment, and we are calling for trade.
And Niger launches legal procedure against the French mining giant Orano. Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Augustine Bill Coley.
Many thanks for joining us. Newslink begins in Nigeria, where worsening security challenges have again come into focus. This follows fresh attacks across several states, including Kaduna, Benue, Niger, and most recently Kwara, where scores were reportedly killed in one of the deadliest assaults in months. As communities grapple with recurrent violence, the United States government has confirmed the deployment of a small team to Nigeria to support counter-terrorism efforts. Authorities say the deployment focuses on intelligence sharing and training rather than combat operations. Our correspondent, Yeche Nusasetu, has the details in this report.
Recent attacks across several northern and north-central states are raising fresh fears about the spread and intensity of insecurity in Nigeria. In Kwara State, armed attackers reportedly killed dozens of residents in Kayama local government area, forcing many to flee their homes. The incident follows other deadly attacks in Kaduna, Benue, and Niger states, where communities have continued to face banditry and violent assaults. Amid these developments, the United States government has confirmed deploying a small team of military personnel to Nigeria as part of counter-terrorism cooperation. Captain Bish Johnson, a U.S. Army personnel, retired, explains the team will focus on advisory roles.
It is understood that this team is here primarily for what is called the ADT, Advice, Direct, Train, which will involve helping Nigerians to analyze intelligence information accurately.
The deployment has drawn mixed reactions from Nigerians.
It's not going to end terrorism. Instead, it's going to, significantly strengthen the Nigerians' capacity to confront insecurity.
This will actually be a welcome development considering the fact that we've been battling insurgency for over a decade in virtually all parts of the country.
But my concern is that what are they going to get to return? Are they not going to force us to cede some of our territories for U.S. operation in Africa?
Authorities insist the collaboration respects Nigeria's sovereignty and is designed to strengthen existing security structures rather than replace them. According to Captain Johnson, the evolving nature of threat requires stronger intelligence coordination.
I'm even thinking that we should even go a bit further until we are able to solve our problems. Because we have been dealing with this problem for 2 decades. If somebody says, look, I'll help you, you let that person help you solve the problem.
As attacks continue across multiple states, many Nigerians say the ultimate measure of success will be whether these partnerships translate into safer communities and lasting security. For WADR, Yeche Nusasetu reporting.
Meanwhile, as international security analysts are advancing new threat assessments that may be unfamiliar to many Nigerians, local observers insist that early warnings about the worsening security situation were largely ignored. Analysts warn that persistent challenges such as marginalization, poverty, limited economic opportunities, and weak governance in some communities continue to create conditions that could enable the further expansion of terrorist groups across the country. Abdullahi Hassan provides us with this analysis.
The deadly twin attacks in Kwara State on February 3, blamed on suspected bandits, are the deadliest recorded this year in a region that rarely experiences such violence. Unofficial reports indicate that nearly 200 people were killed. Local sources say the victims were targeted after rejecting a recruitment attempt by religious extremists who were previously believed to be bandits. The pattern of attacks suggests a possible spread of extremist influence from the northwest toward parts of north-central Nigeria, including areas of Kwara State where ungoverned spaces remain vulnerable. The development raises fresh questions about earlier U.S. claims in December 2025 that Islamic State IS elements were present in Nigeria's northwest, particularly Sokoto State. Analysts say extremist fighters are increasingly blending in with criminal groups operating along the Nigeria-Niger border, complicating efforts to clearly distinguish between bandits and terrorist networks. Recent assaults in Niger and Kaduna State, often attributed to bandits, have also renewed debate over whether some victims may have been targeted for resisting recruitment by extremist groups. Many Nigerians are now questioning whether intelligence agencies had earlier indications of these motives and whether the threat had been underestimated. Despite growing concerns, authorities say intensified security cooperation with international partners, including recent military support from the United States, is expected to strengthen ongoing counter-terrorism operations.
Abdullahi Hassan with that analysis of worsening insecurity in Nigeria. The African Union Commission, however, condemns the deadly terrorist attacks in Nigeria. In a statement, AU chairperson Mahmoud Ali Yusuf said the attack constitutes a grave violation of human rights and an unacceptable assault on peace and security. The AU chairperson reaffirmed the African Union's unwavering policy of zero tolerance for terrorism and violent extremism in all their forms and manifestations. Yusuf also extended sincere condolences to the bereaved families and relatives of the victims and to the brotherly people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Elsewhere in Cote d'Ivoire, the government has reacted to accusations from Niger. The Nigerian transitional leader, General Abdurrahman Chiani, recently accused Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara of involvement in the attack on Niamey Airport. The assault, which caused no casualties, was claimed by the Islamic State in the Greater Sahara. In response, Abidjan has firmly rejected the allegations, denying any role in destabilizing Niger and lodging a formal protest over the claims, which also implicate France and Benin. Here's Christopher Aticho with the details.
For the first time, the Ivorian government has officially demanded explanations from the Alliance of Sahel States following fresh accusations. On January 30, Cote d'Ivoire's foreign minister summoned the Nigerian ambassador in Abidjan to directly reject allegations made by Niger's head of state, General Abdurrahman Chiani. He mentioned Cote d'Ivoire as being among the list of nations bent on destabilizing Niger following an armed attack on Niamey's international airports. The implicit mention of President Alassane Ouattara by Nigerian leader has drawn strong objections in Abidjan. Amadou Koulibaly is government spokesperson.
Until now, the AES countries that accused Cote d'Ivoire had never directly named the head of state in their unfounded allegations. We categorically reject any attempt to tarnish the image of the person who embodies our nation. As long as the accusations were made against the country in general, we consider that no response was necessary, since Cote d'Ivoire had nothing to reproach itself for, and no evidence was ever provided by those making the claims. However, this time, the name of the head of state has been explicitly mentioned, and that is something we, as Ivorians who respect our president, firmly reject.
The Ivorian government says it is waiting a response from Nigerian authorities to its letter of protest before deciding on any possible measures.
A report from WADR's Abidjan correspondent Marcel Areston-Blay, voiced by Christopher Aticho. The transitional government of Niger has commenced a legal process to challenge the French mining company Orano. This follows the creation of a committee of experts in Niamey on Wednesday, tasked with this sole mission. There are two separate legal proceedings surrounding the Sumai uranium stockpile. The mining group maintains its ownership, while Niamey claims to have nationalized the site. Francis Boniface tells us more.
The committee was officially established during a ceremony chaired by Justice Minister Aliyu Dauda. During his remarks, Aliyu Dauda said the move follows multiple legal complaints filed by Orano against Niger before the International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes after the government decided to nationalize mineral resource exploitation. In response, Niger plans to initiate its own legal proceedings against Orano before national and international courts seeking reparations for alleged damages. Thus, the committee will investigate suspected violations of environmental, health, and tax regulations linked to Orano's uranium mining activities. Orano, which is owned by the French state, has not reacted to the latest announcement. The company has already launched legal action against Niger after the military-led government severed cooperation agreements with France, including those covering uranium mining.
Francis Boniface reporting there. Away from the Central Sahel region, debate has erupted in Liberia over proposed amendments to the Anti-Corruption Commission Act. The controversy centers on plans to remove turn-in protections for commissioners of the anti-graft agency, a move the chairperson says would seriously weaken the body's ability to fight corruption. Speaking before a legislative committee on Wednesday, the LCC chairperson strongly opposed to changes to Section 6.16 of the Act. WADR's Monrovia correspondent Abraham Parker reports.
The proposed amendment will give the Liberian president sole authority to remove commissioners of the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission. LACC chairperson Edisandra Zoe warned that the move would undermine the commission's independence, which she describes as essential. She said making commissioners easily removable would expose them to political pressure, weaken investigations, and prosecutions.
A proposed amendment granting the president or the executive the sole authority to remove 10 new commissioners of the LACC directly undermines the independence of the commission, which is essential to its effectiveness and credibility.
However, Law Reform Commission Chairperson Bono Vaman offered a different view, citing Article 43 of the Liberian Constitution, which allows public officials to serve at the will and pleasure of the president. He argued that the Constitution overrides statutory provisions, meaning the LACC Act cannot limit the presidential authority.
We need to be circumspect in our jurisdiction when we are talking tenure, because we only have one organic law in this jurisdiction, which is the Constitution, the 1986 Constitution of the Republic. If you look at the proposed amendment, I don't know what makes that standard different what the LST is proposing. They outline all the issues. I have been appointed as the chairperson of the Law Reform Commission for 5 years. I could be removed today or tomorrow.
Legal experts remain divided, with some stressing that phase 13 new protects the anti-graft agency from political interference, while others say the president must be able to remove underperforming appointees. The debate comes at a critical moment for Liberia as the country continues to grapple with long-standing corruption challenges. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
You are listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM, Dakar, and online at wadr.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Mixed reactions across Nigeria over deployment of U.S. troops amid worsening insecurity. Côte d'Ivoire rejects Niger's accusation of destabilization attempt involving President Ouattara. Niger launches legal procedure against the French mining company Orano. Still ahead in the news, Gambian government pushes for partnership with United Kingdom on investment. We also have guest interview and the sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Many thanks for being with us. We are streaming live on YouTube at WADRO and on Facebook, WADRO English Service. The Gambian government has engaged the United Kingdom, outlining a bold vision driven by trade, investment and partnership and not aid. This message was emphasized by the Gambia's Minister of Information, Media and Broadcasting Services, Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, during his recent address to UK lawmakers and investors at the House of Commons. The high-level engagement was organized by the Westminster Africa Business Association. Dr. Ceesay highlighted democratic renewal, economic growth, and key investment opportunities as the Gambia positions itself as a confident global partner.
The message is simple, and the message is two. That Gambia is ready and open for business. Africa is ready and open for business. And the potentials are there. And these potentials have been untapped for a very long time. And the second message is that Africa and the Gambia in particular are ready for partnerships. Gone are the days when we rely on support and being dependent on aid. The geopolitics of the world is shifting, is changing. And now we are calling for partnerships. We are calling for investment. And we are calling for trade. That is mutually beneficial, that is based on fair play, and that is based on the respect for mutual dignity. Well, the Gambia is not an isolated country. We operate within the global economy, and we understand the realities and the global dynamics that aid is no more popular, that there is donor fatigue happening around the world, that the donor countries, the EU, the US, and other donor countries are tired of pumping millions of money into African countries in the name of aid. So we need to also, as a country, play along. We need to understand the new dynamics and understand that we have the potentials to shift away from being dependent on aid to promoting trade and investment by making our countries more attractive, by reforming our laws, by making sure we are a safe country. That's what Gambia is doing. We are building a thriving, safe democracy.
The Gambia's Minister of Information, Media and Broadcasting, Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, there speaking. Meanwhile, the Gambian government has pledged support to its nationals seeking to benefit from Spain's new program granting legal status to undocumented migrants. The scheme, approved by the Spanish cabinet late last month, offers a pathway to residency for up to 500,000 eligible migrants. Gambian authorities say they will provide the necessary documentation, including passports, to ensure citizens can take full advantage of the opportunity. Elsewhere, members of Ghana's diaspora community are waiting for fresh timelines and modalities from the government after authorities temporarily suspended citizenship applications for people of African descent. The program, launched in 2016, was designed to reconnect descendants of Africans affected by the transatlantic slave trade with the country, but concerns over cost, documentation requirements, and processing delays have prompted a review. From Accra, Nadia Tete reports.
The initiative, which has enabled more than 1,000 people to acquire Ghanaian nationality, is part of the country's broader Pan-African outreach and the 2019 Year of Return campaign. But applicants have raised concerns about the complexity of the process, the high costs involved, and strict timelines for submitting documents, including DNA evidence. Government says revised procedures and timelines will be announced in due course, though no date has been provided. Here is Jonathan Ekwamwa, a member of the diaspora community, outlining some of the challenges.
One of the things that was really a big problem for the diasporans was the communication that came out. And some of it had things like DNA testing, astronomical fees that people had to pay. And so there was an uproar by the diasporan community, which is very strong and very active here in Ghana. And they requested a meeting on Sunday with the Minister of Interior and as well with the President's Office of the Diaspora. And that is what brought about this new communication where everything is being put on pause until they can get direct feedback from the diasporans and also to be able to streamline the process for diasporans to become citizens.
The pause has affected prospective applicants planning relocations or investment in Ghana, particularly in real estate, agriculture, technology, and small businesses. Still, confidence remains that the program will soon reopen after the review. Jonathan Ekwamwa again.
I think that they're expecting a smoother process. clear definition of what is required to be a citizen. And then once those things are put out, I think the whole process will become very fast again.
Other African countries, including Benin and Sierra Leone, also run similar citizenship schemes for people who can verify ancestral links. For WDR, Nadiri Teti, Accra.
Now, talking digital ecosystem, Senegal has joined the list of African countries covered by Starlink, the high-speed, low-latency satellite internet service developed by SpaceX. The launch was announced by Elon Musk on X, saying Starlink is now available in Senegal, raising hopes of narrowing the country's digital divide. The rollout comes as gaps persist between urban and rural areas, despite nearly 99% of households having digital equipment. IT experts say Starlink's entry could offer significant opportunities for Senegal's digital sector. However, the announcement drew concern from the Sonatel Workers Union, which questioned the licensing and regulatory framework governing Starlink's operations. Senegal is the 7th country in West Africa and among the 24 countries in Africa to join the satellite internet provider owned by American technocrat Elon Musk.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest segment this evening focuses on the evolving nature of terrorist threats across the sub-region. In recent years, experts, researchers, and security institutions say insurgent groups are not only expanding geopolitical insurgents, but also advancing their tactics and operational methods. Recent attacks are increasingly being carried out with more sophisticated equipment, including drones, rocket-propelled weapons, and advanced communication devices. At an event in Dakar, WDR engaged Dr. Bakar Sam, the executive director of Timbuktu Institute. Here is an extract of the conversation.
We are in a situation where there is indigenized terrorism because in the past we had some terrorists who came from abroad and invade our countries. Now it's no longer the case. Now terrorists are nationals. The terrorists are our sons. And in this perspective, I propose to our countries to open dialogue and to have discussion with these boys. And even if they're still bad boys, they're still our sons. And in this perspective, I would like to call African countries and mostly West African countries and in the Sahel to adapt our strategies and to give a very important part to dialogue and discussion.
What do you think are the factors now that terrorism is also involving citizens themselves in these countries?
You know, in our different studies, we summarize saying that if you want to understand better the drivers of radicalization and violent extremism, we have to take into account this phenomenon that you have weak governance, also bad governance, and you have also marginalization and frustration, and how the terrorist group are trying to instrumentalize all these factors in order to push boys toward the terrorist group and recruit them. So we need a holistic approach in order to tackle this phenomenon, and in the meantime, see what would be the kind of cooperation we may have in the region in spite of this polarization between ECOWAS and AOS, and to see that we are facing what I call challenge of collective security we have to manage together.
What are the specific strategies that West Africa needs to adopt?
We need a mixed approach. We have to manage the security emergencies because there is some worries in our borders and in Mali and Burkina Faso and Niger. And in the meantime, we have to invest a lot on social cohesion and dialogue, and also providing social needs, building schools, hospitals, and integrating those populations living in the borders in order they can feel their belonging to the national community. I think that there was a major strategic mistake to extract Central Sahel from the rest of West Africa. We need to create a kind of synergy between the countries. I may give an example. For example, never Benin will succeed to fight terrorism in northern Benin without collaborating with Niger, in spite of these diplomatic worries, etc., etc. And I think that now we have the regional security architecture, which was disturbed by the creation of AES, but now it's time to see what avenue of collaboration we can have, in spite of the polarization, to prioritize some common action in order to tackle this phenomenon, which need, and I repeat, a holistic approach.
Dr. Bakari Sam is the Executive Director of Timbuktu Institute. Now for sports, with just 2 rounds of fixtures remaining before the quarter-finalists of this season's Total Energies CAF Champions League are decided, several clubs who officially secured their places in the last 8 or found their hopes hanging by a thread. The competition's format sees the top 2 teams from each group advancing to the knockout rounds, making every point vital at this stage. After 4 match days played, the qualification to the knockout stages of Africa's premier club competition is taking shape in all the 4 fiercely contested groups. Group A, Pyramids FC sit top with 10 points, followed by Arrowheads Buchanan on 7, Power Dynamos 4, and Rivers United 1 trail but can still influence outcomes. Group B, Al Ahly lead with 8 points, while AS FAR and Young Africans both have 5. JS Kabali remains on 2, seeking a boost. Group C, Al Hilal top with 8 points, with Mamelodi Sundowns on 5. MC Wadr and Loa Lupopo are tied to 4, setting up a tight fight for qualification. Group D stayed Malayan lead on 8 points. Experience de Tunis sit second on 6, followed by Petro de Luanda and Simba SC on 5 points. This weekend's fixtures starting from Friday's Group C clash between table toppers Al Hilal and MC Wadr could prove decisive for Al Hilal, who lead the pack. And that's the latest in the world of sports. With that, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Many thanks to you for listening, and special thanks to Mustafa Sek and Maudo Ju for the technical support. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, X, Instagram, and Facebook at WADR English. I am Augustine Curley. Good evening.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Baf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7